Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, carried more weight on his shoulders than most of us could even imagine. Wars threatened his empire, plagues decimated his people, political betrayal lurked in every corner. And yet, in the quiet of his tent, surrounded by uncertainty, he wrote to himself, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Pause for a moment and let that sink in. What if your happiness wasn't tied to your paycheck, the approval of others, the turbulence of the world, or even your own fears? What if it depended solely on the discipline of your mind, on the way you chose to think each day? That's the heart of Stoicism. It doesn't promise a life without pain or difficulty. It doesn't deny that suffering exists. Instead, it teaches us something far more powerful, that peace and strength are not given, but practiced daily. And that happiness, real and steady happiness, is not an accident of fortune. It's a choice, a discipline, a responsibility. In this video, push yourself to be happy. Every day. Stoic mindset for daily peace and strength. I'm going to share with you 10 Stoic principles you can apply right now to cultivate resilience, inner calm, and genuine happiness. These are not abstract ideas. They are practical, battle-tested lessons, lived and written by philosophers who faced more chaos than most of us ever will. But here's the promise. If you stay with me until the very end, you will discover not only these 10 principles, but also the one final teaching, the last point, that holds the greatest key to living with daily peace and unshakable strength. It is the teaching that even emperors clung to when the world threatened to break them. Think of this as training, not training your body, but training your soul. Just as you push your muscles to grow stronger, you must push your mind to grow steadier. Happiness will not arrive on its own. You must push yourself toward it every single day. And that's exactly what we are going to uncover together. Now, before we dive in, I want to ask you to do something simple yet powerful. In the comments, I want you to write 3 words. I choose peace. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. By writing those words, you make a small declaration, not to me, not to others, but to yourself, that today you are willing to push yourself toward happiness and strength. So get ready. Let's begin this journey into the Stoic mindset and discover how to live every single day with peace, clarity, and power. Principle 10. Gratitude is your daily power. Gratitude is the quiet force that turns ordinary days into extraordinary experiences. It is the discipline that transforms the way we interpret reality, the lens through which life stops being a series of complaints and starts becoming a field of opportunities. The Stoics understood this with absolute clarity. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, did not waste his mornings by focusing on the endless crises that surrounded him. Instead, he reminded himself of the blessing of being alive at all. He wrote that when you rise each day, you should consider the privilege it is to breathe, to think, to love, to act. For him, gratitude was not decoration but survival. It was the practice that allowed him to endure war, plague, and betrayal without surrendering to despair. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, is not shallow optimism or forced positivity. It does not ask you to deny the reality of pain or to ignore injustice. Instead, it demands clarity. It trains the eye to notice what is still present even when much is lost. It teaches the mind to focus on what is given instead of what is withheld. Happiness is not found in the endless chase for more, but in the recognition of enough. A man or woman who cannot see what they already have will always be poor, even surrounded by abundance. But the one who can recognize the value of breath, health, friendship, or a single day of life will carry wealth within, regardless of external circumstances. Think for a moment of your own days. How often have you allowed a small inconvenience to poison your entire mood? A slow line at the store, a missed message, a piece of bad traffic. These minor irritations expand until they dominate your perception. Yet, at the very same time, your body is still carrying you, your lungs are still drawing air, the sun is still rising, and the people you love may still be near. Gratitude is the act of shifting focus. It is the decision to withdraw attention from trivial frustrations and redirect it toward the quiet abundance that surrounds you constantly. Seneca, who spent his life navigating politics, wealth, and eventual exile, wrote that no person is poor who can see what they already have. For him, poverty was not a lack of possessions, but a lack of awareness. To live without gratitude is to live in permanent hunger, no matter how full your table. To live with gratitude is to feel full even with little. It is not about ignoring pain, but about refusing blindness to blessings. Gratitude for the Stoics was a discipline of repetition. It was not to be practiced once a year like a seasonal holiday, but every single day. The mind is like a field. What you plant will grow. If you plant resentment, anger, and envy, your thoughts will multiply those weeds. If you plant gratitude, patience, and awareness, then your mind will grow a harvest of peace. That is why Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations for himself. They were not public writings, but reminders. He was training his vision, repeating to himself the truths that could stabilize his spirit. Gratitude was his morning and evening ritual, his constant companion. Imagine beginning your mornings with 3 short acknowledgements. I am grateful for the air I breathe. I am grateful for the chance to rise again. I am grateful for the opportunity to act with virtue today. Such words might seem simple, but simplicity is power. Over time, these acknowledgements reshape the way you perceive reality. You begin to notice more than you complain. You begin to count blessings rather than grievances. Gratitude becomes your reflex. The opposite of gratitude is entitlement. Entitlement whispers that life owes you comfort, recognition, and success. But the universe is not designed to satisfy personal expectations. Rivers flow without consulting us, the seasons turn without asking, and fortune changes without apology. Entitlement makes us fragile because every unmet expectation feels like injustice. Gratitude makes us resilient because every small gift feels like abundance. Epictetus, born into slavery and later freed, understood this perfectly. He could have lived in bitterness. Instead, he trained himself to see freedom in the one place it truly exists: the mind. Gratitude for him was not about possessions, which could be taken away, but about virtues and choices, which could not. When you expect less and appreciate more, happiness begins to appear in ordinary places. A simple meal feels like a banquet. A walk in silence becomes meditation. A conversation with a friend becomes treasure. Gratitude multiplies the value of ordinary life until nothing feels wasted. Yet the true test of gratitude is not in comfort, but in adversity. What about illness, betrayal, or death? How can one give thanks in such moments? The Stoics would answer that gratitude becomes even more necessary in those times, not to erase grief, but to prevent grief from consuming everything. Seneca wrote that even challenges deserve a form of thanks, for they sharpen character and reveal inner strength. Hardship teaches patience, loss clarifies priorities, pain deepens compassion. Gratitude here does not mean joy in suffering. It means awareness that even suffering carries seeds of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius faced a devastating plague that killed millions, including members of his own family. He felt grief deeply, yet he continued to write about the value of virtue and the importance of gratitude. He gave thanks for the chance to serve humanity, even in times of horror. His gratitude did not erase his sorrow, but it allowed him to bear it without collapse. To practice Stoic gratitude, begin the day with acknowledgement. Remind yourself upon waking that this day was not promised, yet it has been given. Practice evening reflection by reviewing what went well, no matter how small. Give thanks for the people around you. Write to them, speak to them, or at least recognize them silently in your heart. Give thanks for difficulties too, for they test and shape you. And practice silent gratitude by noticing the details, the ground beneath your feet, the rhythm of your breath, the warmth of sunlight. Gratitude does not always need to be spoken, but it must always be lived. Perspective is everything. Two people may face the same situation, but one curses while the other gives thanks. One loses wealth and despairs, while another loses wealth and still gives thanks for health. One faces failure and collapses, while another sees the lesson and grows. Gratitude changes the story you tell yourself. You cannot always control events, but you can always control interpretation. Gratitude is the interpretation that gives strength. Gratitude is not automatic. It requires effort. It requires discipline. It requires pushing yourself every day to see abundance instead of lack. That is why it is a Stoic principle of happiness, because it does not come naturally to the untrained mind. The untrained mind always sees what is missing. The Stoic trains to see what is present, and when you practice this discipline, peace grows within you like a fortress. If you want to push yourself to be happy every day, begin with gratitude. Begin not with chasing wealth, recognition, or applause, but with acknowledging that life itself is already a gift. From gratitude comes peace, and from peace comes strength. That is why gratitude is your daily power. So I will leave you with a simple challenge. Write 3 words in the comments below. I choose peace. Not for me, not for others, but for yourself. Those 3 words are your declaration that you will train your vision each day to see what is present, to recognize abundance, and to carry gratitude as your strength. Gratitude is not weakness. Gratitude is not naive. Gratitude is the sharpest weapon against despair, the clearest shield against resentment, and the surest path toward daily happiness. Gratitude is your daily power. Use it. Principle 9, train your mind like a warrior. The human mind is the most powerful tool you possess, yet it is also the most dangerous if left undisciplined. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They compared philosophy to training, a lifelong practice, a form of exercise that shapes character the way physical labor shapes the body. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Those words are not poetry. They are instructions. They are the call to discipline, the command to build mental resilience with the same rigor that a soldier builds strength for battle. To be happy every day, to carry peace and stability no matter what life throws at you, you must train your mind like a warrior. A warrior does not step onto the battlefield unprepared. He does not hope that courage will simply appear when fear rises. He practices, he conditions, he repeats until readiness becomes instinct. The Stoic philosopher does the same with thought. Life is a battlefield filled with unexpected challenges, insults, losses, and temptations. If your mind is untrained, you will fall at the first strike. If your mind is disciplined, you will stand firm even when the storm rages. Happiness, in this sense, is not something that comes to the passive. It is a prize earned by the disciplined. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, trained himself daily through reflection and self-questioning. He knew that circumstances could never be fully controlled, but thoughts could be. He advised his students to rehearse difficulties in their minds before they came, to anticipate hardships so that they would not be crushed when reality arrived. He would tell them, "Do not say, 'I have lost it,' but rather, 'I have returned it.'" In this way, he trained his mind to accept change without despair. That is the mind of a warrior, prepared, alert, and disciplined. To train your mind like a warrior, you must first recognize that it is weak when untrained. Just as the body grows lazy without movement, the mind grows chaotic without guidance. You may believe that your thoughts are natural and spontaneous, but most of them are habits, repeated patterns formed by years of neglect. Complaints become reflexes, fears become routines, anger becomes instinct. Without training, you become a slave to these habits. With training, you reclaim freedom. Marcus Aurelius disciplined his thoughts each night by writing them down. His meditations are nothing but exercises, reminders to himself, corrections to his own impulses. He knew that if he did not control his mind, the empire of Rome itself would feel like chains around him. A trained mind gave him freedom, even when responsibility threatened to suffocate him. A trained mind gave him clarity in the chaos of war and courage in the face of death. Seneca, surrounded by wealth and power, did not trust comfort. He knew comfort weakens the mind. He practiced voluntary discomfort to sharpen his resilience. He would remind himself that the mind is tested not in pleasure, but in adversity. If you want to be happy every day, you cannot let your mind remain soft. Like a warrior, you must train in conditions that test your endurance. You must face small challenges intentionally, so that great challenges do not overwhelm you. How do you train the mind like a warrior in daily life? Begin with awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts as they rise. Most people drift through life reacting, unaware of the constant storm within. Training begins with watching, noticing the complaints, the judgments, the fears that arise automatically. Do not fight them at first, simply see them clearly. Awareness is the first weapon in the warrior's arsenal. Next comes discipline. Choose one practice that strengthens your mind daily. For the Stoics, journaling was essential. Each morning, write down what you expect to face and how you choose to respond. Each evening, review what happened and correct where you failed. This simple ritual trains the mind to anticipate, reflect, and improve. Another practice is meditation, not in mystical terms, but in Stoic reflection. Sit quietly, breathe, and repeat to yourself the truths you must not forget. That life is short, that control is limited, that virtue is always possible. These repetitions carve new pathways in the mind. A warrior also rehearses battle. In Stoic practice, this means imagining difficulties before they happen. Before you step out each day, tell yourself, I may be insulted, I may be ignored, I may be betrayed, I may lose what I love. If these things come, I will not be surprised, for I have trained for them. By anticipating, you rob hardship of its power to shock. You meet it with readiness instead of despair. But training is not only about defense, it is also about offense, about advancing towards strength. You must deliberately expose yourself to small difficulties. Fast for a day, sleep on the ground, take a cold shower, walk in the rain. Do not do this for pain, but for power. Each voluntary discomfort reminds your mind that it does not need luxury to survive, that it can endure more than it believes. A warrior does not collapse when comfort is taken away, because he has trained to live without it. The mind of a warrior is not only strong but also calm. True strength is not the roar of anger, but the stillness of control. Epictetus reminded his students that anger chains you, that resentment poisons you, that fear blinds you. Training the mind means cutting those chains, cleansing that poison, clearing that blindness. A warrior does not panic at the first strike. He remains steady, assessing, choosing wisely. That is the goal of Stoic training, to respond with reason instead of impulse, with virtue instead of vice. Happiness comes as the result of this training, not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. The undisciplined mind collapses under stress, complains at inconvenience, and despairs at loss. The trained mind accepts what comes, adapts to difficulty, and continues forward with dignity. Happiness is not the absence of pain, but the presence of strength. When you train your mind like a warrior, you build that strength and happiness follows naturally. Think of the warrior preparing for battle. He does not know exactly what the enemy will do, but he trains for every possibility. In the same way, you cannot know what tomorrow will bring, perhaps loss, perhaps joy, perhaps insult, perhaps praise. If you train your mind each day, none of it will surprise you. You will be steady in victory and steady in defeat. That steadiness is peace. That steadiness is happiness. The Stoics remind us that no one else can train your mind for you. The responsibility is yours. Philosophy is not something to read once, it is something to practice daily. Every challenge is an opportunity to train. Every irritation is a chance to test patience. Every temptation is a moment to strengthen virtue. Life itself is the battlefield, and every day is training ground. So push yourself. Do not wait for peace to appear by chance. Do not expect happiness to arrive as a gift. Discipline your thoughts as a soldier disciplines his movements. Rehearse difficulties, embrace small discomforts, and remind yourself daily of what truly matters. When you stumble, correct yourself. When you fall, rise again. The mind, like the body, grows stronger through repetition. In time, you will notice the transformation. Insults will no longer pierce you. Loss will no longer break you. Fear will no longer rule you. You will carry peace within, not because the world is kind, but because your mind is trained. That is the essence of Stoic resilience. That is what it means to train your mind like a warrior. And so, as you reflect on this principle, I invite you to declare your training with 3 simple words. Write in the comments, "I choose peace." By doing so, you are not only repeating a phrase, you are making a commitment to yourself, to your own discipline, to your own warrior's path. Each day you push yourself, you step closer to the unshakable strength the Stoics promised. Train your mind like a warrior, and happiness will become your daily companion. Principle 8. Practice voluntary discomfort. The human tendency is to avoid pain, to seek comfort, to move toward ease and away from hardship. It is natural, instinctive, and deeply rooted in survival. Yet the Stoics, who spent their lives studying human nature and the path to true resilience, taught the opposite, that comfort weakens and hardship strengthens. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic teachers, advised his friends to practice poverty, to deliberately eat coarse bread, wear rough clothing, and sleep on the ground from time to time. His purpose was not cruelty toward himself, nor self-punishment. His purpose was freedom. He understood that those who are slaves to comfort are never free. The moment comfort disappears, so does their peace. By practicing discomfort voluntarily, you train yourself to be unshaken when discomfort comes without warning. Imagine a soldier who only trains in perfect weather with full meals and easy conditions. When the real battle arrives in rain, mud, and hunger, he collapses because he has never prepared for such realities. The Stoics believed life is exactly the same. Life will not always bring you soft beds, warm meals, and calm circumstances. There will be storms, illnesses, betrayals, and sudden losses. If you have lived only in comfort, these events will destroy you. If you have trained yourself through voluntary discomfort, they will not surprise you. You will endure them with strength. Seneca once wrote to Lucilius, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Notice his question. Is this what I feared? He invites us to discover through experience that discomfort is rarely as terrible as our imagination paints it. Hunger passes. Cold can be endured. A hard floor will not kill you. When you practice voluntary discomfort, you reveal to yourself that your strength is greater than your fears. Marcus Aurelius, though emperor of Rome, reminded himself to live simply. Surrounded by wealth and power, he chose to eat modestly and to reject luxury when possible. He wrote that the body needs little to survive, and that the mind becomes clearer when freed from the chains of excess. Comfort breeds dependency. Dependency breeds fragility. Voluntary discomfort restores independence. When you know you can live with less, no one controls you. Not fortune, not wealth, not circumstance. Consider the modern world. We are surrounded by technology designed to eliminate effort. We order food with a touch. We adjust the temperature with a button. We travel without walking. These conveniences are not evil, but they can make the mind fragile. The slightest delay enrages us. The smallest inconvenience unsettles us. We lose patience quickly because we are untrained in hardship. The Stoics would tell us, if you want daily happiness, you must practice discomfort intentionally. Only then will peace become steady, unshaken by small disturbances. Voluntary discomfort can take many forms. It can be physical, like fasting, exposing yourself to cold, reducing your diet to simple foods, or walking long distances. It can be material, like wearing plain clothes instead of fashionable ones, or sleeping without luxury. It can be social, like practicing silence in a noisy world, or accepting the possibility of being ignored without complaint. Each act is a reminder that happiness does not depend on comfort. Epictetus, born into slavery, knew discomfort by necessity, not choice. Yet he still advised his students to practice self-denial even when they gained freedom. He understood that the mind must be trained not to crave excess. He warned that if you cannot endure small discomforts voluntarily, you will never endure great ones when life forces them upon you. The Stoic does not wait to be tested. He prepares for the test before it comes. The purpose of voluntary discomfort is not misery, but mastery. When you choose hardship for yourself, you build confidence in your own endurance. You learn that you can live with less, that you can face what you once feared. Then, when fortune removes your comforts, you do not collapse. You are already prepared. This preparation creates freedom, and freedom creates happiness. Think of your own life. How often do you avoid discomfort at all costs? How often do you choose the easiest path, the softest seat, the most convenient option? These choices may feel pleasant in the moment, but over time, they weaken you. They train your mind to expect ease. And when life inevitably delivers difficulty, you feel crushed. The Stoics would urge you, reverse the habit. Choose difficulty in small ways so that large difficulties no longer terrify you. Sleep on the floor for a night, skip a meal, and remind yourself that hunger is bearable. Wear plain clothes and notice how little the judgment of others truly matters. Take a cold shower and feel the strength of your own endurance. Walk instead of driving and see that your body is capable. These are not punishments, they are practices. Each one whispers to your mind, you are stronger than you think, and you need less than you imagine. The benefits of voluntary discomfort go beyond endurance. They sharpen gratitude. When you fast, the simplest meal feels like a feast. When you endure cold, warmth feels like a blessing. When you give up luxury, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Gratitude grows in the soil of discomfort. The Stoics believed happiness requires gratitude, and gratitude flourishes when you remind yourself not to take life's gifts for granted. Seneca wrote that he who has prepared for poverty enjoys wealth more. Why? Because he does not depend on it. He can savor comfort without being enslaved to it. The untrained man needs comfort constantly and therefore never feels satisfied. The trained Stoic can live with or without it and therefore feels free. Freedom is happiness, and happiness requires training. Voluntary discomfort also reduces fear. Most fear is born from imagination. We fear hunger, poverty, rejection, or loneliness because we imagine them as unbearable. But when you step into these discomforts voluntarily, the illusion disappears. You discover that you can survive hunger, that you can endure cold, that rejection does not kill you, that loneliness can even bring clarity. Fear weakens because reality is less frightening than imagination. That is why Seneca asked, "Is this what I feared?" It is a powerful question that dissolves fear by confronting it directly. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that luxury corrupts the soul. He did not despise comfort, but he refused to depend on it. He knew emperors who were destroyed by their addiction to luxury, rulers who could not live without banquets and soft beds. Such men, though powerful in appearance, were weak in spirit. True strength lies in being able to live simply. True happiness lies in not being chained to what is fragile. In the modern world, voluntary discomfort can become your shield against anxiety. When you are used to small discomforts, unexpected difficulties will not overwhelm you. When you practice fasting, you fear hunger less. When you practice silence, you fear solitude less. When you practice simplicity, you fear loss less. Each discomfort builds resilience, and resilience is the foundation of peace. Happiness is not constant pleasure. Happiness is the ability to remain steady in the face of life's ups and downs. By practicing discomfort, you cultivate that steadiness. You push yourself toward freedom, gratitude, and strength. The Stoics believed that without such training, the mind becomes soft, fragile, and restless. With it, the mind becomes strong, stable, and free. So do not fear discomfort. Seek it in small ways. Let it teach you. Let it remind you of your resilience. Let it free you from the chains of dependency. When you can look at discomfort and say, "Is this what I feared?" you are already victorious. You are already happy because your peace no longer depends on fragile comforts. And so, as we close this reflection on voluntary discomfort, I ask you to make a small declaration. Write 3 words in the comments. I choose peace. By doing so, you affirm that happiness is not found in endless comfort, but in the strength you cultivate each day. Voluntary discomfort is not punishment. It is preparation. It is your training ground for freedom. Practice it, and happiness will no longer be fragile. It will be yours, steady and strong. Principle 7. Stay present. The Stoics insisted again and again that happiness is not hidden in the past nor locked away in the future. It is here, in this moment, available to you if only you train yourself to see it. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled during wars, plagues, and political turmoil, wrote in his meditations, "Confine yourself to the present." He reminded himself that yesterday is gone, tomorrow is uncertain, and the only place where life actually happens is now. To live outside the present is to live in illusion, chasing shadows or wrestling with ghosts. To stay present is to live in reality, the only place where peace is possible. Think about how easily the mind wanders. You replay old arguments in your head, reliving the sting of words spoken years ago. You imagine future disasters that may never come, filling yourself with dread. You compare your current situation with an idealized version of what could have been or what should be. Each of these mental habits drags you away from the present. And when you abandon the present, you abandon happiness. The Stoics would say you are letting yourself be enslaved by time that does not exist anymore or does not yet exist at all. Epictetus taught that events themselves do not disturb us, but our judgments about them do. Most of our judgments are not about what is happening now, but about what has already passed or what might happen. We poison the present with regrets and anxieties. We allow memories to haunt us and fantasies to dominate us. To stay present is to cut those chains. It is to refuse to let the past dictate today and to refuse to let the future steal today's peace. Seneca wrote about the foolishness of wasting life in worry. He said that life is long if you know how to use it, but most people spend it either grieving over the past or trembling about the future. He compared life to a journey. The traveler who constantly looks backward or forward misses the very ground beneath his feet. The wise traveler notices the step he is taking now. Happiness, therefore, is not at the end of the road, but in each step, if the mind remains present. To practice presence, the Stoic way is not easy, because the mind resists. The mind craves distraction. It clings to stories of the past to justify itself, and it projects into the future to control what it cannot control. To pull the mind back to the present requires discipline, the kind of discipline the Stoics called a daily exercise. Marcus Aurelius trained himself in this exercise every morning and every evening. He wrote reminders to himself: do not waste yourself in fear, do not wander into desire, return to this moment. This is enough. Presence is powerful because it shrinks problems to their real size. When you face a difficulty and remain present, you deal only with what is here: a task at hand, a conversation, a single step. When you leave the present, problems multiply into 1,000 possibilities. You no longer fight what is, you fight what was and what might be. That is why anxiety feels overwhelming. It is the weight of imagined futures piled upon a single moment. To stay present is to lift off those unnecessary burdens and carry only what is real. The Stoics would often practice a form of meditation on the present. Epictetus advised his students to pause and ask themselves, what is in my power now? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now. Often the answer is simple: your attitude, your breath, your next action, nothing more. This clarity brings peace because it limits your concerns to the manageable, to the real. Happiness grows when you focus on what can actually be touched and shaped in this moment. Consider how presence changes even ordinary experiences. Eating a meal absent-mindedly while scrolling through distractions leaves you unsatisfied, searching for more. Eating the same meal with full attention, tasting, smelling, noticing each bite, fills you with gratitude. Walking through a street while lost in thought makes life blur past you. Walking the same street with presence reveals details, colors, and faces that make life rich. Happiness is often hidden in these ordinary moments, but you only find it if you are present. The Stoics were not naive about pain. They did not say the present is always pleasant. Sometimes the present contains suffering, loss, or fear, but even then, staying present is more powerful than escaping into past or future. When you remain with pain, you deal only with this breath, this moment. Pain becomes bearable. When you flee to the future, imagining endless suffering, or to the past, remembering better days, pain multiplies. Presence reduces suffering to its smallest form. That is why Marcus Aurelius wrote that man can endure any pain if he confines it to the present moment. Training presence requires constant effort. You will be tempted to escape, to drift, to wander in thought. The Stoic discipline is to gently return again and again. Some practices can help. Begin your morning with a reminder: today I will live only this day. When regrets arise, tell yourself, the past cannot touch me now. When fear of the future rises, tell yourself, the future is not here yet. Return to your breath, return to your step, return to the task in front of you. You can also use journaling to train presence. At night, write down where your mind wandered and where you lost today by living elsewhere in time. This reflection trains you to notice faster, to catch yourself sooner, to live more fully tomorrow. With practice, presence becomes natural, and peace follows naturally. Modern life pulls you constantly away from presence. Devices demand your attention, news floods you with distant fears, and comparisons drag you into imagined futures. To be present today is to resist a culture of distraction. It is to rebel against noise with stillness. The Stoics would see presence as an act of strength, a discipline that separates the free from the enslaved. The one who is present owns his time. The one who is distracted loses it. Happiness, in the Stoic sense, is not pleasure but tranquility, and tranquility cannot exist anywhere but here, now. If you wish to push yourself to be happy every day, you must push yourself to remain present. It is not natural to the wandering mind, but it is possible with training. Each time you pull yourself back to the moment, you build strength. Each time you resist the pull of regret or fear, you grow freer. So stay present. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you work, just work. When you speak, just speak. Each moment fully lived contains more peace than a lifetime of distraction. Do not let life slip past you while your mind is elsewhere. And as you take this lesson with you, I leave you with a small challenge. Write 3 words in the comments. I choose peace. Let those words be your anchor, your reminder to return to the present. Because peace is never somewhere else. It is always here, waiting for you in this very moment. Principle 6. Master your desires. The Stoics taught that unhappiness often comes not from what we lack, but from what we crave. Desire, when uncontrolled, is endless. It pulls the mind in every direction, always whispering that happiness lies just beyond the next possession, the next recognition, the next indulgence. Yet the moment you grasp what you thought would satisfy you, desire shifts and new hunger appears. Seneca wrote that it is not the man who has little who is poor, but the man who always wants more. To live chained to desire is to live enslaved, because your peace is always held hostage by what you do not yet have. To be free, you must master your desires. Marcus Aurelius, who had at his disposal the wealth of an empire, reminded himself daily that luxury is unnecessary. He wrote that the body needs little: bread to eat, water to drink, and a roof to shield from rain. Beyond that, excess serves only to distract and weaken the spirit. He warned himself not to become addicted to soft cushions, rich banquets, or flattering words. Why? Because the more you depend on them, the less capable you are of enduring their absence. Comfort breeds fragility, and fragility breeds misery. The one who has mastered his desires can enjoy luxury when it is present, but does not suffer when it is absent. That is true strength. Desire is not only about wealth or possessions. It takes many forms. Some desire praise, some desire control, some desire constant entertainment. The Stoics saw all of these as dangerous because they place happiness in the hands of something unstable. Praise depends on others, who may change their opinion in an instant. Control depends on circumstances, which can shift without warning. Entertainment numbs but never fulfills, leaving the mind restless once the distraction ends. Each of these desires promises happiness, but delivers only dependence. Epictetus was clear about this. If you want freedom, stop tying your peace to things outside your control. The more desires you attach to external things, the more vulnerable you become. If you desire wealth, you will fear poverty. If you desire praise, you will fear criticism. If you desire comfort, you will fear hardship. The Stoics did not say you must reject all pleasure or abandon all comfort. They said you must learn to master desire so that you are never its prisoner. Seneca advised practicing voluntary poverty, not because he despised possessions, but because he wanted to remind himself of how little is truly necessary. He would wear rough clothing, eat simple food, and say to himself, "Is this what I feared?" In this way, he dissolved the illusion that luxury was essential. He discovered that peace comes not from abundance, but from sufficiency. Once you realize you need little, you are no longer controlled by desire. The pursuit of desire often creates the opposite of happiness. Think of a person chasing wealth without limit. Each achievement brings temporary joy, but quickly it fades, replaced by new ambition. The cycle never ends. The mind becomes restless, always reaching, never satisfied. The Stoics warned that this is not living but slavery. The slave of desire may appear powerful, but he is fragile because his peace depends on circumstances that will eventually change. True power belongs to the one who has mastered his desires, who can remain content with little and steady in abundance. Mastering desire requires training. First, you must learn to pause before indulging. When desire rises, ask yourself, will this bring lasting peace or only momentary pleasure? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that many desires are like honeyed poison, sweet for a moment, but harmful in the long run. By pausing, you break the automatic chain between wanting and acting. You create space to choose. Second, practice gratitude. When you focus on what you already have, desire loses its sharpness. The mind that counts blessings feels rich. The mind that counts lacks feels poor. Gratitude is the natural enemy of insatiable desire. Each time you remind yourself of the gifts already present, health, air, friendship, knowledge, you weaken the craving for more. Third, practice voluntary discomfort. Skip a meal, wear plain clothes, sleep without luxury. Each time you endure simplicity, you remind yourself that peace is possible without indulgence. When you realize you can live with less, desires lose their power over you. Fourth, reflect on mortality. Remembering death, the Stoics said, shrinks desires to their true size. When you realize life is short, endless chasing becomes foolish. You see that possessions cannot follow you into the grave. Virtue remains, character remains, but desire leaves you empty-handed at the end. Mastering desire means living with clarity about what truly matters. Desire is a trickster. It convinces you that happiness lies outside you, that you must chase it endlessly. But the Stoics turned inward. They taught that peace depends not on possessions, but on perspective, not on indulgence, but on discipline. The one who has mastered desire can walk into wealth without arrogance and into poverty without despair. He can enjoy pleasure without addiction and endure hardship without complaint. He is free, and freedom is happiness. In the modern world, desires are multiplied by design. Advertisements whisper that you need this product, that experience, that approval. Social media fuels comparison, making you crave what others display. Entertainment offers constant escape, making you restless when silence comes. To live stoically today means resisting this flood. It means saying no when the world tells you to want more, and yes when reason tells you to remain steady. Ask yourself, how many of your desires are truly yours, and how many have been planted in you by others? The Stoic practice is to examine each desire and ask, does this serve virtue, or does this enslave me? If it serves virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance, then it may be worth pursuing. If it enslaves you, then it must be mastered or discarded. The one who masters desire discovers a paradox. When you stop chasing happiness, you begin to feel it. When you stop craving endlessly, you begin to appreciate what is present. When you stop fearing loss, you begin to live freely. Happiness does not arrive from fulfilling every desire. Happiness arises from needing less, from finding sufficiency within. Seneca wrote that the greatest wealth is contentment with little. Epictetus said that freedom belongs not to the one who can acquire anything, but to the one who does not need to. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to strip life to its essentials and to remain calm when luxury vanished. Together, their message is clear. To push yourself to be happy every day, you must master your desires. So I leave you with the same invitation as before. Declare your discipline with 3 simple words: I choose peace. By writing them, you remind yourself that peace comes not from chasing more, but from mastering the desire for more. Freedom is not found in indulgence, but in control. Master your desires and happiness will no longer be fragile. It will be yours, steady and strong, every single day. Principle 5. Turn obstacles into opportunities. Life will place barriers before you. Some you expect, many you do not. Illness, failure, rejection, betrayal, the loss of what you thought was permanent, all of these arrive uninvited, often when you are least prepared. The natural response is frustration. Why me? Why now? Why this? The Stoics offered a different response, one of the most powerful teachings in their philosophy. Do not curse the obstacle, use it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These words have echoed through centuries because they reveal a truth that transforms how we see hardship. Every obstacle carries within it the seed of growth, and every barrier can be turned into a path forward. Imagine water flowing down a mountain. When it encounters a rock, it does not stop and complain. It finds a way around, above, or through. The rock that seemed an obstacle becomes part of the river's journey. The Stoic mind works the same way. When life places a barrier in front of you, you do not waste your strength shouting at it. You adapt, you learn, you grow. The obstacle is no longer the end of the road. It becomes part of your training. Seneca reminded his students that difficulty is the forge of virtue. Courage cannot grow without danger. Patience cannot grow without delay. Forgiveness cannot grow without injury. Strength cannot grow without struggle. If you wish to develop these virtues, you cannot expect a life free of obstacles. You must expect and even welcome them, for they are the very conditions that make growth possible. To turn obstacles into opportunities is to see life not as a cruel test, but as a constant training ground. Epictetus, who endured slavery and physical disability, refused to see himself as broken. Instead, he saw in his hardships the chance to train resilience. He told his students, when something difficult happens, do not say, "I lost it," but say, "I returned it." In this way, he reframed loss as part of the natural order, something not stolen, but completed. His suffering did not make him bitter, it made him wise. That is the Stoic way, to transform what appears harmful into fuel for strength. The power of this principle lies in perception. Two people may face the same challenge, yet one crumbles while the other grows. The difference is not the event, but the interpretation. To the untrained mind, the obstacle is a wall. To the Stoic mind, the obstacle is a tool. The same fire that burns weak material hardens steel. The same weight that crushes the unprepared builds the disciplined. The obstacle itself does not decide your fate. Your response does. Consider modern life. Perhaps you lose your job. The untrained mind sinks into despair, convinced that identity and worth have been destroyed. The Stoic mind acknowledges the pain, but asks, what can I build now? What skill can I sharpen? What freedom has been given to me that I did not see before? The same event, two paths, one toward bitterness, one toward opportunity. Or imagine betrayal by a friend. The untrained mind closes the heart, refusing trust ever again. The Stoic mind reflects. This pain has revealed the nature of character, and though it hurts, it has taught me to value integrity more deeply. The betrayal becomes the teacher. Trust does not vanish, but it becomes wiser, more discerning. Even illness, which seems only destructive, can be turned into opportunity. Marcus Aurelius suffered constant sickness, yet he used his weakness as a reminder of the shortness of life. His illness deepened his gratitude for each moment of health and sharpened his focus on virtue. Illness forced him to value time, and that awareness made his life richer. The obstacle became a teacher of urgency and clarity. How can you train yourself to turn obstacles into opportunities? First, practice anticipation. The Stoics advised rehearsing possible misfortunes in your mind. Tell yourself each morning, I may be delayed, I may be insulted, I may face loss, I may encounter injustice. If these things come, I will not be surprised, for I have trained for them. By anticipating obstacles, you prepare your mind to respond with strength rather than shock. Second, pause when difficulty arrives. The immediate reaction is often anger, despair, or fear, but in the pause lies power. Ask yourself, what does this obstacle allow me to practice? Patience, courage, wisdom, self-control. By reframing the obstacle, you transform it into an opportunity for virtue. Third, act. Do not remain frozen by what stands in your way. Take a step, even if small. Obstacles often feel overwhelming because we imagine them as immovable. But when you begin to act, you discover paths hidden within them. Action reveals opportunity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to waste energy wishing events were different, but to apply himself to what was given. The obstacle is not an excuse for inaction, it is the call to action. Fourth, reflect afterward. Each obstacle leaves behind a lesson. Do not rush past it. Ask yourself, what did this teach me? How am I stronger now? Reflection ensures that suffering is not wasted, that pain is converted into wisdom. Without reflection, obstacles remain wounds. With reflection, they become scars of honor, proof of endurance. Turning obstacles into opportunities does not mean denying pain. The Stoics did not pretend that suffering feels good. They acknowledged grief, disappointment, and struggle, but they refused to let these experiences remain empty. Pain, when faced with courage, becomes meaningful. Suffering, when examined with wisdom, becomes growth. The obstacle, when embraced, becomes the path. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the universe does not conspire against him. Events are neutral. The judgment is his own. If he chose to see obstacles as enemies, he would suffer endlessly. If he chose to see them as teachers, he would grow endlessly. The same choice lies before you. Every day life will place something in your way. Every day you can decide, will this break me or will this build me? This principle is perhaps the most practical for daily happiness, because obstacles are constant, opportunities are constant. Each frustration is a chance to grow patience. Each insult is a chance to grow self-control. Each delay is a chance to practice calm. Each failure is a chance to learn humility. If you live with this mindset, no day is wasted. Even hardship becomes part of your training. So the next time you face an obstacle, remember the river and the rock. Do not waste yourself cursing the barrier. Flow around it, over it, or through it. Use it. Let it teach you. Let it harden your character the way fire hardens steel. And as always, I leave you with the invitation to declare your choice. Write 3 words in the comments. I choose peace. This is your reminder that no obstacle can steal your happiness unless you allow it. What stands in the way can become the way if you train your mind to see it so. Turn obstacles into opportunities, and you will never fear hardship again. Instead, you will meet it as a warrior meets battle, ready, steady, and unshakable. Principle 4. Remember the shortness of life. The Stoics repeated a phrase that echoes through time, memento mori, remember that you must die. At first hearing this sounds grim, almost morbid, as if they obsessed with death. But the truth is the opposite. They did not meditate on death to become dark. They meditated on death to become alive. By remembering the shortness of life, they sharpened their focus, cleared their minds of trivialities, and discovered urgency in every day. Happiness, they believed, is impossible if you live as though life is endless. But if you live with the awareness that your days are numbered, you will use them wisely. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, faced death constantly. He lost children, friends, and soldiers to war and plague. He could have drowned in grief or denied the reality of mortality. Instead, he wrote to himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This was not despair, but clarity. Knowing that death could come at any moment reminded him to live with virtue, to waste no time on anger or envy, to focus only on what truly matters. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, warned that most people complain that life is too short, yet they waste much of it. They waste it chasing wealth they cannot keep, worrying about opinions that do not matter, or replaying regrets they cannot change. Life feels short, he said, not because it truly is, but because we misuse it. A long life is not measured in years, but in clarity of purpose. A single day lived fully is richer than decades wasted in distraction. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, reminded his students that death is not an enemy. It is part of nature, as natural as birth. He said, "Death is nothing dreadful, but the fear of death is dreadful." To live fearing death is to die daily in your imagination. To live remembering death is to die only once, and to live every day with courage. When you forget the shortness of life, you drift. You delay what must be done, saying, "Tomorrow I will begin." But tomorrow is not promised. How many dreams are buried under the illusion of endless tomorrows? How many acts of kindness are left undone because we assumed there would be more time? The Stoics tell us, do not delay, do not postpone living. Life is now, and now is all you truly own. This awareness changes how you see problems. A petty insult loses power when you remember your mortality. Will it matter on your last day? A missed opportunity feels lighter when you recall that everything passes, even regret. Anxiety about the future fades when you remember that the future itself is not guaranteed. By holding death in your mind, you place every moment in its proper proportion. But remembering death is not about constant gloom. It is about gratitude. When you accept that each day could be your last, every breath feels like a gift. Ordinary things shine brighter, the laughter of a friend, the taste of simple food, the warmth of sunlight, all become treasures. Gratitude blooms when you remember that these experiences are fleeting. Death is not a thief. Forgetfulness of death is the thief. Forgetfulness robs you of urgency and appreciation. Remembering death restores both. The Stoics also believe that remembering mortality protects you from pride. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire in the world, yet he reminded himself daily that soon his body would be dust like anyone else's. Wealth, power, fame, none of it escapes death. This thought humbled him, kept him grounded, and freed him from arrogance. If emperors and slaves share the same fate, then pride in temporary positions is foolish. Death equalizes all. Practically, how can you remember the shortness of life without falling into despair? Begin each day by acknowledging it could be your last, not in fear, but in focus. Ask, if this were my final day, how would I live it? What would I say? What would I let go of? What would I hold close? This exercise directs your energy to what truly matters. During the day, when irritation arises, pause and ask, does this deserve my limited time? Often you will find the answer is no. Arguments shrink, envy fades, distractions lose appeal. Mortality becomes your compass, pointing you back to meaning. At night, reflect on how you spent your hours. Did you live as if they were infinite, or as if they were precious? This reflection trains you to improve tomorrow, to waste less, to love more. In this way, memento mori becomes not morbid, but life-giving. Even in grief, remembering the shortness of life can heal. When someone you love dies, you feel the pain of absence. But the Stoics would remind you their mortality was always certain, as is yours. Grief is natural, but despair is unnecessary. Instead, give thanks that you shared time at all. Remembering that life is brief transforms memory into gratitude instead of bitterness. Modern culture often hides death, pushing it away, pretending it does not exist. We are taught to avoid the thought, to distract ourselves with entertainment and noise, but the Stoics invite us to face it directly, not to be consumed by it, but to be freed by it. When you accept that death will come, you stop fearing it. When you stop fearing it, you start living. This practice also strengthens courage. Fear of death often chains people, preventing them from acting boldly or speaking truth. But once you accept that death is inevitable, fear loses its power. Marcus Aurelius faced assassinations and betrayals, yet his awareness of mortality gave him the strength to act with integrity. He could not control how long he lived, but he could control how he lived. That is the essence of Stoic courage, to meet death not with trembling, but with dignity. So, to remember the shortness of life is to live fully. It is to strip away trivial pursuits, to focus on virtue, to deepen gratitude, to free yourself from pride, to sharpen courage. It is the key that unlocks urgency and clarity. Without it, you drift. With it, you awaken. And I invite you, as always, to make this awareness practical. Declare it with 3 simple words. I choose peace. Write them, not as a denial of death, but as an acceptance of life. By choosing peace, you remind yourself that death is not to be feared and that life is to be lived fully and gratefully in each moment you are given. Remember the shortness of life, and happiness will cease to be fragile. It will no longer depend on endless tomorrows. It will live with you today, where life actually happens. Principle 3, strengthen your inner fortress. The Stoics taught that the most important battle is not fought on fields of war, but within the mind. Cities may fall, wealth may vanish, friends may betray, the body itself may weaken with age, yet one thing remains in your power, the state of your inner fortress. Epictetus declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." He was reminding us that freedom is not a gift of fortune, but a result of self-mastery. If you wish to be happy every day, you must construct within yourself a fortress so strong that no storm from the outside world can destroy it. Imagine a city without walls, open to every invader. Any wandering army can conquer it, and its citizens live in constant fear. That is the image of an untrained soul, one that allows every insult, every disappointment, every fear to enter and take control. Now imagine a city surrounded by walls, well guarded, disciplined, steady. Attacks may come, but they do not break through. That is the image of the Stoic soul, trained, disciplined, watchful. To build such a fortress is not arrogance but wisdom, because life will certainly send storms, and only the prepared endure them with peace. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire constantly under attack. He understood that he could not control the tides of war, nor the spread of disease, nor the betrayal of ambitious men. But he also understood that these could not touch his inner fortress unless he opened the gates. His meditations were the bricks with which he built his walls, reminders to himself of what matters, corrections of his impulses, exercises in self-mastery. His body could be sick, his empire could be threatened, but his soul remained untouchable because it was guarded by reason and virtue. Seneca, who walked the halls of power in Rome, surrounded by luxury and temptation, trained himself daily not to depend on external things. He knew that wealth, pleasure, and reputation could collapse in an instant. If his peace depended on them, then he was already enslaved. His practice was to turn inward, to remind himself that virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance was his true fortress. Virtue cannot be stolen, cannot be broken, cannot be destroyed by fortune. That is why the Stoics insisted that happiness must be built on virtue alone. All else is fragile. To strengthen your inner fortress, you must first recognize the enemy at the gate. The enemy is not the external event, but your own uncontrolled reaction to it. Epictetus taught that it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them. An insult is only sound until you decide it wounds you. Loss is only change until you decide it ruins you. Fear is only imagination until you decide to obey it. The fortress is not breached by events, but by the choices you make in response. Strength lies in training those choices. Daily practice is essential. Each morning, Remind yourself that you will meet people who are rude, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious. Marcus Aurelius wrote this not to despair, but to prepare. By expecting challenges, he guarded his fortress in advance. When the insult came, he was not surprised. When the betrayal arrived, he was not shocked. His walls were ready. You too must prepare yourself each day. Expect difficulty, and you will not be destroyed by it. Second, train your perception. When misfortune strikes, ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, act with reason. If no, accept with calm. This simple distinction builds strong walls because it prevents you from wasting energy on what cannot be changed. The untrained soul pounds against the unmovable, exhausting itself. The trained soul acts where it can and accepts where it cannot. That is strength. Third, discipline your desires. The fortress collapses when you crave what is fragile. If your happiness depends on wealth, then poverty will destroy you. If your happiness depends on praise, then criticism will destroy you. If your happiness depends on comfort, then hardship will destroy you. To strengthen your inner fortress, you must build it on foundations that cannot be taken away, on virtue, discipline, and clarity. Then fortune may strike, but it cannot overthrow you. Fourth, control your speech and your thoughts. Anger, gossip, envy. These are like cracks in the wall, weaknesses that let invaders enter. Watch your thoughts as a guard watches the gate. Do not let every impulse enter. Question them, examine them, accept only those that serve reason and virtue. This vigilance is the essence of Stoic practice. Fifth, reflect daily. At night, review your actions. Where did you allow your fortress to weaken? Where did you let an insult pierce you, a desire control you, a fear disturb you? Reflection strengthens the walls by repairing what is cracked. The next day, you are better prepared. Over time, this daily maintenance makes your fortress nearly unshakable. But do not mistake a fortress for isolation. The Stoic does not hide from life or withdraw from duty. Marcus Aurelius did not abandon the empire. He served it with courage. The fortress is not an escape from the world, but a protection within it. It allows you to engage fully in life without being destroyed by it. You can love without being enslaved, serve without being broken, act without being consumed. The fortress is freedom, not prison. Consider modern life. The untrained soul is tossed about by every wave of news, every shift in opinion, every disappointment in work or love. Anxiety rises, anger burns, despair grows. Why? Because the gates are open and undefended. To live stoically today means building the same fortress within. Do not let headlines invade your peace. Do not let strangers control your mood. Do not let circumstances dictate your worth. Strengthen your inner walls with reason, with virtue, with perspective, and you will remain steady even in chaos. Happiness, the Stoics knew, does not come from a life free of storms, but from a soul that cannot be shaken by them. The fortress you build is not made of stone, but of choices repeated daily until they form unbreakable walls. And when your fortress is strong, you will not fear the world. You will meet it with calm, with clarity, with courage. So remember, no man is free who is not master of himself. Build your fortress, guard your gates, train your thoughts, master your desires, reflect daily. Do this, and happiness will no longer depend on fragile circumstances. It will live within you, steady, unshakable, and free. And as always, I invite you to affirm this practice with 3 words in the comments. I choose peace. By writing them, you're placing another stone in the wall of your fortress, another layer of protection around your soul. Each day you choose peace, you strengthen your defenses. Each day you strengthen your defenses, you move closer to freedom. Strengthen your inner fortress, and no storm will ever take your happiness away. Principle 2, choose virtue over pleasure. The Stoics taught that the highest good is not pleasure, but virtue. This teaching stands in sharp contrast to the natural impulses of human beings. We are drawn to what feels good, to comfort, to indulgence, to praise, to fleeting satisfaction. Yet the Stoics warned that if you make pleasure your compass, you will lose your way. Pleasure is unstable. It comes and goes like the wind, sometimes sweet, sometimes destructive. Virtue, however, is steady. It is the only foundation strong enough to build a happy life upon. To choose virtue over pleasure is to choose the path of true freedom, because it is the path no external force can take away. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by power, wealth, and temptations of every kind, reminded himself daily that none of these could bring him lasting peace. He wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts and actions. If those thoughts and actions are directed toward pleasure alone, the soul grows soft, restless, and dependent. If they are directed toward virtue, toward wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, the soul grows strong, calm, and free. Pleasure is the pursuit of the moment. Virtue is the pursuit of a lifetime. Seneca wrote that pleasure by itself is not evil, but it becomes dangerous when it rules us. Food, drink, wealth, comfort, all of these can be enjoyed in moderation. But when they become the aim of life, they enslave the soul. The pursuit of pleasure never ends, because satisfaction fades the moment it is tasted. The man who chases it is like one drinking salt water. The more he drinks, the thirstier he becomes. Virtue, by contrast, satisfies completely because it is rooted in character, not circumstance. Epictetus was blunt in his teaching: do not hand over your freedom to pleasure. If a sweet taste controls you, you are a slave to it. If flattery controls you, you are a slave to it. If comfort controls you, you are a slave to it. The Stoic is free because he enjoys what is given, but does not need it. He can live with wealth without arrogance, and with poverty without despair. He can enjoy pleasure when it comes, but he is not disturbed when it leaves. His compass is not pleasure but virtue, and so his course remains steady. What does it mean to choose virtue? It means to act with wisdom, seeing reality clearly without being deceived by illusions. It means to act with justice, treating others with fairness and integrity. It means to act with courage, facing difficulty without surrender. It means to act with temperance, mastering desires and refusing excess. These four virtues for the Stoics were not optional. They were the foundation of a good life. Pleasure, when pursued without them, leads to corruption. Virtue, when chosen even in the absence of pleasure, leads to peace. Consider the modern world. You are constantly invited to chase pleasure. Advertisements promise happiness in a product. Entertainment promises escape in endless distraction. Social media promises validation in likes and comments. But these pleasures fade quickly, leaving restlessness behind. The Stoic practice is to step back and ask, will this make me virtuous or merely entertained? Will this strengthen my character or weaken it? By asking this question, you train yourself to choose what lasts over what fades. Choosing virtue does not mean rejecting all pleasure. The Stoics were not ascetics who despised life's simple joys. Marcus Aurelius enjoyed walks, family, and conversation. Seneca enjoyed literature and philosophy. Epictetus enjoyed teaching. But they enjoyed these within the framework of virtue, never allowing them to become masters over their souls. Pleasure is safe when it follows virtue. Pleasure is dangerous when it replaces virtue. Choosing virtue also changes how you respond to difficulty. When pleasure is your goal, pain destroys you. When virtue is your goal, pain becomes your teacher. Hardship reveals courage. Injustice reveals justice. Temptation reveals temperance. Confusion reveals wisdom. Every trial becomes an opportunity to strengthen character. This is why the Stoics could find peace even in exile, slavery, or sickness. Their happiness was built on virtue, not on fragile pleasures. Practically, how can you choose virtue over pleasure each day? Begin with awareness. When desire rises, pause and ask, is this aligned with virtue? For example, when anger tempts you to speak harshly, ask, is this just? When indulgence tempts you to excess, ask, is this temperate? When fear tempts you to run, ask, is this courageous? When ignorance tempts you to accept falsehood, ask, is this wise? In this way, every moment becomes training. Next, practice self-restraint. Deny yourself small pleasures intentionally, not to punish yourself, but to remind yourself that you are free. Skip a luxury, resist an indulgence, remain silent instead of speaking impulsively. Each act of restraint builds strength. It is not about rejecting pleasure forever, but about proving to yourself that you are its master, not its servant. Finally, reflect daily. At night, ask yourself, where did I choose pleasure over virtue today? Where did I compromise wisdom for comfort, justice for convenience, courage for safety, temperance for indulgence? Reflection is not for guilt, but for growth. By seeing clearly, you strengthen your ability to choose rightly tomorrow. To choose virtue over pleasure is to choose what cannot be taken away. Fortune may strip you of wealth, health, reputation, or comfort, but it cannot strip you of virtue unless you surrender it. That is why the Stoics insisted that virtue alone is sufficient for happiness. It is the one treasure that cannot be stolen, the one fortress that cannot be broken, the one light that does not fade. So when you are tempted to chase pleasure, pause and remember, it will not last. When you are tempted to compromise virtue for gain, pause and remember, you will lose more than you gain. Happiness built on pleasure alone is fragile. Happiness built on virtue is eternal. And now, as always, I invite you to make this choice visible. Write 3 words in the comments. I choose peace. Let these words remind you that peace is not found in endless indulgence, but in the steady practice of virtue. Choose virtue over pleasure, and you will find happiness that no storm, no loss, no pain can take away. Principle 1. Gratitude is your daily power. The Stoics taught that happiness is not found in what you chase, but in what you already see. Gratitude is not a shallow exercise of listing nice things when you feel good. It is a discipline, a weapon, and a shield. It is the choice to notice what is present instead of obsessing over what is absent. Marcus Aurelius began his days reminding himself of the gift of life, that to wake up, to breathe, to think, to act was already more than enough. He did not begin his mornings by counting complaints, even though he had more responsibility and more reasons to despair than almost anyone alive. He chose gratitude as his foundation because he knew that the mind left untrained will always drift toward dissatisfaction. Seneca wrote that no man is poor who can see what he already has, and no man is rich who is blind to it. Poverty is not the absence of wealth, but the absence of gratitude. Gratitude transforms little into enough and enough into abundance. When you fail to practice gratitude, your life becomes a restless pursuit of more. You tell yourself that happiness lies in the next possession, the next achievement, the next recognition. But when those arrive, they never satisfy for long, because the habit of ingratitude quickly moves the goal further. Gratitude ends this cycle by anchoring you to the present and teaching you that what you already have is sufficient. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and endured a life of hardship, never surrendered to bitterness. He taught that freedom lies in directing your attention to what cannot be taken away. If you focus only on what is missing, you become restless. If you focus on what is present, your ability to think, to choose, to endure, you discover peace. Gratitude for him was not about ignoring suffering, but about refusing to let suffering define the whole picture. Even in chains, he found reasons to give thanks, and that gave him freedom greater than his masters ever knew. Think of your own days. How often have you allowed a small irritation to ruin your mood? The late bus, the harsh word, the slow internet, the long line at the store. In those moments, you forget the vast abundance surrounding you. Your heart still beats without your command. The air still fills your lungs. The sun still rises. People you love may still be near. Gratitude shifts your attention from what went wrong to what continues to go right. It is not denial of problems, but recognition of blessings. Gratitude also strengthens resilience. When hardship arrives, as it always does, the ungrateful mind collapses under the weight of what has been lost. The grateful mind acknowledges the loss, but holds firmly to what remains. Seneca reminded us to practice gratitude even for challenges, because challenges teach us what comfort never can. Pain teaches endurance, loss teaches perspective, obstacles teach strength. To give thanks for difficulty is to refuse to let suffering be wasted. It is to turn hardship into a teacher. Gratitude humbles you. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, could have drowned in arrogance. Yet he reminded himself constantly of the teachers, friends, and examples who shaped him. He gave thanks for their wisdom and their guidance. Gratitude for others weakens pride and strengthens connection. It reminds you that you are not self-made, but shaped by countless influences, and that humility itself is a form of freedom. How do you practice Stoic gratitude daily? Begin in the morning with acknowledgement. Say to yourself, "This day was not promised, yet here it is. I have the chance to act with virtue. I have the chance to live." In the evening, review what has passed. Instead of replaying only frustrations, identify at least 3 things worthy of thanks, no matter how small. Perhaps you heard laughter, felt warmth, or avoided anger in a tense moment. Gratitude is not about quantity, but clarity. Practice gratitude toward people. Speak it when you can, or write it when you cannot. Gratitude strengthens bonds, reduces resentment, and softens judgment. It allows you to see others not only in their flaws, but in their contributions. Practice gratitude for difficulties. When insulted, give thanks for the chance to practice patience. When delayed, give thanks for the chance to practice calm. When you fail, give thanks for the chance to practice humility. Every hardship can be transformed by gratitude into an opportunity for virtue. Finally, practice silent gratitude. When you walk, notice the ground beneath your feet. When you breathe, notice the air. When you eat, notice the taste. Gratitude does not always need words, it needs awareness. In a modern world that thrives on dissatisfaction, gratitude is a radical act. You are constantly told you need more wealth, more recognition, more possessions, but gratitude breaks that illusion. It whispers, you already have enough. The ungrateful man is always restless. The grateful man is always rich. Gratitude is not natural. The untrained mind sees only what is missing. Gratitude must be practiced daily until it becomes instinct. That is why Marcus Aurelius wrote his reminders, why Seneca advised rehearsing poverty, why Epictetus taught students to notice what cannot be taken away. They knew that gratitude is the key to daily happiness because it anchors peace in the present. So I invite you now, as always, to declare your choice. Write 3 words in the comments. I choose peace. By doing so, you remind yourself that gratitude is not passive, but active, not accidental, but deliberate. You choose to see abundance. You choose to recognize gifts. You choose peace, even in difficulty. Gratitude is not weakness. It is the strongest force you can carry because it cannot be stolen, broken, or destroyed. Gratitude transforms what you have into enough and enough into joy. Practice it daily and happiness will become steady, not fragile. Gratitude is your daily power. Use it. You have now walked through 10 Stoic principles, each one a tool, each one a weapon, each one a reminder of the strength that already lives within you. From gratitude to virtue, from presence to discipline, from obstacles to mortality, the Stoics left us a map for a life of resilience and peace. But a map is useless if it remains on a table. Its power lies in being followed. The question now is not whether these principles are true. You have heard their truth echoing through the voices of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. The question is whether you will practice them. Think back over the path we have traveled. Gratitude taught you that happiness does not require more but awareness of enough. Training your mind like a warrior taught you that resilience is built, not given. Practicing voluntary discomfort reminded you that freedom comes not from clinging to comfort, but from knowing you can endure its absence. Staying present revealed that peace is never in the past or the future, but always in this breath, this step, this moment. Turning obstacles into opportunities showed you that life's challenges are not curses, but teachers, the very forge in which your character is shaped. Remembering the shortness of life gave you urgency, stripping away trivial pursuits and pointing you toward what truly matters. Strengthening your inner fortress reminded you that the world can wound the body but cannot touch the soul unless you open the gates. Choosing virtue over pleasure taught you that lasting happiness comes not from indulgence, but from character, not from fleeting desires, but from timeless values. And finally, gratitude, your daily power, closed the circle, reminding you that all of this wisdom means nothing unless you learn to notice the gift of life itself. Each principle is simple, but simplicity is power. Complexity confuses, simplicity clarifies. The Stoics did not build a philosophy of empty words. They built a way of life, practical and sharp. They knew that life is short, unpredictable, and often painful. They did not deny this truth. They embraced it and turned it into strength. That is what you must do if you want peace every single day. Do not wait for life to become easier. Do not wait for the world to hand you calm. Push yourself. Train yourself, discipline yourself. Happiness is not a gift you receive, it is a habit you build. But let us be honest, living stoically is not easy. You will fail, you will fall into anger, into fear, into distraction, into desire. You will forget to be grateful, forget to stay present, forget to practice restraint. And when you fail, you may be tempted to give up, to say, I am not strong enough. Yet Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that virtue is not perfection, but persistence. Falling is not the end. Refusing to rise again is. Each day is a new chance to return to the path, to train again, to strengthen again. Do not demand perfection from yourself. Demand progress. This is why the Stoics wrote. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations for us. He wrote them for himself because he needed reminders as much as we do. Seneca wrote letters to friends because he knew that encouragement was necessary even for the wise. Epictetus spoke to his students because he knew that discipline must be repeated. If emperors, senators, and philosophers needed constant reminders, so do you. Do not be ashamed of your struggle. Be ashamed only if you refuse to struggle at all. Think of your life now. Where are your chains? Is it desire, always craving more? Is it fear, always trembling at what may come? Is it anger, always burning at what others say or do? Is it distraction, always wandering away from the present? Whatever it is, the Stoic way offers you tools to break it. Gratitude breaks desire, anticipation breaks fear, reflection breaks anger, presence breaks distraction. Each principle is a weapon, and each day is your battlefield. Use them. The closing truth is this: happiness is possible. Not the fragile happiness that depends on luck or comfort, but the steady happiness that depends on discipline. You cannot control the world, but you can control your mind. You cannot command fortune, but you can command your choices. You cannot promise yourself tomorrow, but you can live fully today. That is enough. That is freedom. That is Stoicism. So I ask you now, after this long journey through Stoic wisdom, what will you do? Will you let these words fade like noise, or will you practice them? Will you drift with the current of comfort, or will you train like a warrior? Will you waste your days in distraction, or will you live them with urgency? The choice is yours. The Stoics cannot live your life for you. They can only hand you the tools. You must pick them up. Begin small. Tomorrow morning, write down 3 things you are grateful for. When irritation rises, pause and ask yourself, is this worth my peace? When desire tempts you, remind yourself, freedom is needing less. When an obstacle appears, whisper to yourself, the obstacle is the way. When fear of death surfaces, remind yourself, life is short, and that is why it is precious. These small acts are the bricks of your inner fortress. Repeat them daily, and happiness will become your companion. In the end, Stoicism is not about rejecting life, but about embracing it fully. It is about standing firm in storms, finding beauty in simplicity, acting with justice, and living with courage. It is about using every moment wisely, because you do not know how many remain. It is about becoming unshakable, not because life is gentle, but because your soul is strong. And now, as we close, I leave you with the same invitation I have given at every step. Write 3 words in the comments. I choose peace. These words are not decoration. They are your declaration. They are your reminder that peace is not found in luck, but in discipline, not in the future, but in the present, not in possessions, but in perspective. Write them, remember them, live them. This is Diary Stoic. You have heard the wisdom of emperors, senators, and slaves. You have walked through 10 principles of unshakable happiness. Now the path is yours. Push yourself to be happy every day, not because it is easy, but because it is worth it. Build your fortress, train your mind, master your desires, live with virtue, and above all, give thanks for the gift of this very moment, because in the end, happiness is not a secret waiting to be found. It is a discipline waiting to be practiced. The Stoics showed us the way. Now it is your turn to walk it.